Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Motivational speaker, coach, God lover, and goal crusher Joe Rivera brings you inspiring leaders, incredible stories, and valuable lessons on how you can change, grow, and reforge your life. Now, here's your host, Joe Rivera.
Hey, what's up? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Reforge Your Life Show. I'm your host, Joe Rivera, and here at the Reforge Your Life Show, we like to show you that a comeback story is absolutely more than possible. And today, I'm blessed and honored to bring on this guest. I consider her a friend, a mentor. She's awesome. She's an author. She's a keynote speaker. She's an amazing mother, and she's just phenomenal person. So I'm honored to bring Elina Fernandez onto the show. Elina, thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Joe. It's my honor to be here with you, and I'm excited to talk to your audience. And I know that you are so inspiring to me, and I'm excited that we can do this together.
Yes, absolutely. I'm excited too, and you're definitely inspiring to me. And I want you to share with everyone why I feel that way, because I know your story, but some people in the audience might not know it yet, and I can't tell it nowhere close to as good as you. So please share with everybody your story, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It's interesting when I heard you introduce me and thinking about the fact that I speak all over the world and that I also share my story through books. This is something that I never thought I would have achieved, because when I was growing up in the slum in the Dominican Republic, I actually never owned a book. I only had to walk to the library to read books and to do my homework. And I was definitely fortunate that I could even go to school, because many of the children in my neighborhood didn't have that opportunity. And we were fetching water and we lived in extreme poverty. So everything started to be and seem very difficult at a young age. And I remember being 5 years old when I had the first thought, the first defeating, intrusive thought, life is too hard. Why am I even here? And for a 5-year-old, my little one is 5 right now. And for me to think that a 5-year-old was having those thoughts, it's really heartbreaking, but that was my reality. And so that is how I grew up. There was a lot of dysfunction and abuse and traumatizing experiences around me. However, when I was 7 years old, I had just come back from fetching water. And you know this because I've told you this before. It was my favorite day in the planet, because we went, my brother and I, he's 2 years younger than me, and I still call him my baby brother, even though he's way taller than I am. But we had a favorite spot, and it was the landfill that was right behind our little shack that we called home. And in this place, we were exploring and living an adventure, even though it was really yucky and it was really mushy because we were barefoot most of the time. And this day in particular, my favorite day in the entire world, I came across a magazine and I looked at it and I flipped through the pages, and I was just fascinated with the bright pictures, and slowly I went through those soggy pages and fixated on one picture where these families had everything that I wanted. They seemed like they got along and they had love. They had a mom and a dad, and the kids were reading books. They were wearing jeans and tennis shoes, and they were surrounded by colorful toys and a beautiful home. And to me, anyone who had a toilet or a shower was rich. And so for me to see this vision, it was like, oh my goodness, does this mean anything? And I felt in my spirit, I still feel it right now. I didn't really understand my faith. And nobody talked about God or anything like that in my home at that time. But I just felt like if there was a God, he was telling me that was going to be my life. And in order for me to have this life, I needed to learn the language because the magazine was in English. And and so in my little girl mind, I turned to my brother and I said, you know, si aprendemos este idioma, vamos a vivir esta vida. If we learn this language, we're going to live this life. And we called it the Eclipse magazine, La Revista Eclipse, because we didn't know how to pronounce highlights. It was a highlights magazine. Have you ever seen that magazine before?
No, I haven't.
Well, it's usually like a dentist's office or checkup rooms and things like that. And it's a magazine for kids. And today my brother and I joke that we had a subscription because every single month someone would throw it away and we would go to the trash and find it. And so I learned a lot of little words in English, but that motivated me to launch my first business as a story. And if you go to my website, you'll see 3 titles: storyteller, story strategist, and student of pain. Because I have always been a storyteller. And my first business was a cardboard puppet theater in which I gather all of the kids in the slum and charge them a few coins so that I could tell them the stories that I imagined from the Highlights magazine. And so within 4 years, I saved up money to enroll myself in English classes. And now with the English language, like you said, my blog reaches 168 countries around the world. I have multiple best-selling books that I have written in English, and I have done 5 TED Talks in English, and I can't even count how many keynotes in 36 countries now. So for me, that's a miracle of the power of faith and of holding on to a vision with faith.
Yeah, wow, that's powerful, man. Manifestation is real, yo. I mean, that's proof right there, without a doubt. So when you your first business was the storytelling, and you started doing storytelling for when you were younger, and what happened after that?
Oh, wow. Well, there was a detour, as it always happens. Life is a series of ups and downs, and you know that because
Yeah.
you have experienced that in your life as well. And so it's really important to say that, after I learned English, my struggles didn't go away, but I did start to climb the ladder financially. And as a bilingual person and then trilingual, because I also learned Italian, I understood that there were so many doors that were opening to me, and I was able to eventually even go to college in the capital of the Dominican Republic, which is named Santo Domingo. And so when I was in Santo Domingo, I was just feeling really accomplished, like, there's something in the world for me. I can come out of this poverty. I can do something with my life. And then one day, it was actually March 7th, 1996. That day will never escape my mind. And I mourn that day every year because I was going to school and I went on a corner to catch a transportation car. It's like an Uber and a bus meet
Yeah.
together. And so,
Very familiar.
yes. Yes. So it's a different mode of transportation that we have in our developing countries. And so I boarded the car and I gave the man the fare for my ride. And then obviously there wasn't an app at that time. We didn't even have cell phones. Uh, I had a beeper though.
Oh
Remember
man, I
those?
remember those beepers. Yeah, we're showing our age here, Elina, but it's all
Okay,
good.
that's fine. That's fine. And so unfortunately, he said, that's not how you're gonna pay.
Mm.
And so in that moment, my stomach turned and I saw, I grew up in a slum. I didn't have a lot of experience with cars. I saw the locks go down and I
Mm.
was terrified. He took me to a remote location and I was, kidnapped by him for a considerable amount of time where he proceeded to torture me in every possible way. It was the most horrifying and humiliating experience of my life. And I thought I had been through a lot already,
Mm.
and I did. Um, but this was a next level. And so I have a fighting spirit. I always have. So I try to defend myself. I try to resist. And that just made him angrier and angrier. And so there was a point that he said, and I was just completely covered in blood and weak and weary. And he said, you know what? I'm gonna take you somewhere else and I'll just finish doing what I'm doing when you are dead. So he just told me he was going to kill me. So he proceeded to, put his baseball bat in the trunk, and that's what he was using to inflict violence on me. And then it was incredible, Joe, what happened next. His car did not start.
Wow.
So he tried and tried and tried, and the car wouldn't start. And then just as I saw the locks go down, I saw them go up now. And there was something inside of me because I just had been for the past, I don't know how long, this was, but I had just been like, I'm gonna die, and I think I want to die because I feel dirty, I feel ugly, I feel
Yeah.
no matter where I go or what happens, this is chasing me. Like I end up hurt, and I hear these words that I am worthless and that I am nothing. And
Mm.
so when I saw those locks go up, there was a voice I heard, and it was the same voice from the landfill.
Mm.
Instead of saying to me, learn English, he said, get out.
Wow.
And I thought, I can't get out, I can't move, right? I am
Mm.
so beat up. And somehow I was able to get out, and it was like a supernatural strength. And I walked to a nearby gas station and I signaled to a guachiman. This is a man who watches with a shotgun and he's a watchman for the gas station. And we have those in our countries too. And he was able to catch the man, and I was able to later on get medical care um, and unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because what happened was horrible, unfortunately go to trial where it was re-victimization all over again, knowing that this person was an important member of society who would just, go in a beat up car to pick up women and hurt them. So that was really horrible for me. And that happened in 1996. And it was 6 months of agony. And I'm saying 6 months because in October of that year, when I started to kind of come out, go back to school and go back to work and reintegrate myself to speak with people from being just depressed and angry at God and angry at everyone and everything. And I started to dissipate all of that anger and defeat. My brother and I, again, my little brother, who's the giant. um, he and I were going back home from school, and a friend of ours gave us a ride, and then this time a motorcycle gets in front of the car. The car swerves, and then we do three flips in the air, and I end up pronounced dead underneath the car. And it was just the most amazing experience of my life. Even though I broke 19 bones and I was in a coma, after they were able to revive me through electrical cardioversion and CPR and all of that, I was in a coma for 8 days, and that's where I found my faith again and found meaning in this experience. But that happened when I was 19 years old, and it was a very heavy year, as you can see. But most of the teachings that I share with my audiences all over the world, and actually, I was just in India speaking to 700,000 people. Those teachings come from what I learned in my coma and my journey after that, because I've been here for a while.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And man, I'm grateful to have you here. You are absolutely a miracle. And, God obviously saved your life for a reason, and you're living through that reason now. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But, you said that, you teach these teachings that you learned through the coma. Man, there's so much to unpack there, man, because the, 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 the hurdles that you've jumped through to get to where you are today. I mean, you know, abuse as a child, molestation, torture. I mean, all that in itself is a miracle, and to overcome those voices that pop up, right? The inner critics of I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, all these voices that come up, that inner critic that you had to overcome. What did that look like?
Thank you for asking that. I think overcome is a word that we use and we oversimplify.
Mm.
Because I think it's overcoming. It is a
Yes,
journey of overcoming.
fair
It is
enough.
a daily journey. And so I think that the number one thing that I learned in my coma, and it was immediate, as soon as I found myself floating and seeing my body in the hospital bed or cot in that moment, because I was taken to a not so great hospital because I was in a very obscure part of town when this happened. Um, it was the difference between what I like to call motivational shame and true presence with people. Let me explain that. So when I had just, gone to the trauma unit from being, experiencing rape and all of that I experienced, people would come to me and they would say, "Wow, Elina, everything happens for a reason. Elina, you're gonna be grateful later on that this happened." Or they would say, "We're just so grateful you survived," but they would not address my pain. And I just felt so alone because everybody was being so positive. And I felt like I can't be positive. I'm just suffering. I'm just sad. I'm just feeling, like you said, ugly and and like I'm dirty and damaged forever. And like I will never be able to have a normal life, and I will be afraid of every man around me. And all of these things that were popping up, I was thinking, why am I even alive? Because no one understands my pain and nobody wants to talk about it. However, when I was seeing everyone in the next to my hospital bed, because I could see them, I could hear them, and I could also feel them,
Mm.
feel everything they were feeling. They weren't positive. They were crying, they were breaking down, they were asking God why. They were saying, "This poor girl, she's been through so much. I love her, Why is she going through this? She, she needs another chance to be happy. And that's when it hit me. Motivation can kill, but validation can heal.
Wow.
And so for me, it's like when someone is in pain, we need not to be positive. We need to be present with them.
Right.
We need to be present with their pain. And so to answer your question, did I overcome it all? No. However, every day is an overcoming as I am present with myself and I am present with others, present with my pain, not to go directly to, oh, it's going to be okay, because I don't know that,
Yeah.
but just to honor, I'm not feeling okay. And that allows me to find a tool or a mechanism or a person who's safe so that I can get through it, because it is together that we get through this. I did not do this on my own. And I'll share with you what the presence means. Motivational shame tells us you're going to be okay. It's all good. You're gonna be grateful. It happened for a reason. But the ministry of presence is, and that's what I call this framework. It has 3 S's: it's silence, safety, and space. And I'll give you an example from the person that I thank every day, besides God, for me being here. I wish I could tell you her name. I don't know it, but her face will forever be my inspiration. And I always get emotional thinking about her, because when I came out of that car, I was, very, very undressed, obviously. I had blood everywhere. And this woman comes from her luxurious car and with her fancy dress. Do you remember that cover of Breakfast at Tiffany's with Audrey Hepburn,
Oh,
where she
yeah.
has the black dress, kind of like that? Because I remember that her pearls were on my cheek,
Oh,
and
wow.
had never felt pearls before, and that her soft hand was caressing parts of my head where my hair used to be, that was yanked out in this fight that I had just had. And I just felt her pull me closer and hug me, and I was worried, like, my blood is getting on her beautiful dress. But
Mm.
she didn't care.
Yeah.
She just held me close, and she let me cry. And I don't know her name, and I never even heard her voice. But this feeling was what kept me alive when I was receiving all that motivational shame, and when I was fighting in court, because people would ask me if I was smiling or if I was flirting with him, or how is it my fault, or what was I wearing. And I would just go back to her, the woman at the gas station. And so that's what we need to do for people when they are in extreme pain, when they're suffering, is to be with them and to offer that safety, that it's okay to cry, it's okay to be upset, it's okay to feel your emotions, but you're not alone.
Right.
We offer that presence, and it's safe. And so I have overcome with people who have been my safe space, like her, but also with me being a safe person for myself, to know that it's okay to have those thoughts, and to understand that I can find tools and equip myself to then overcome it for that day, one day at a time. And this is a concept that doesn't just apply to addiction, it applies to anything heavy that feels too overwhelming. It's like, I'm going to get through one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, one moment at a time,
That's right.
because sometimes it's just too much, Joe.
Yeah. And taking it on in little pieces like that, makes it less overwhelming, right? And realizing that you don't have to overcome it all in one day. I mean, that's likely not even to happen, right? There's no such thing as perfection. So as long as you're progressing through that process of overcoming those challenges, that's where the win is. The win is in the progression. It's
Yeah.
in the process of getting to that overcoming, because you're learning as you're overcoming those moments. And man, the woman who saved your life, who's not saved, the woman that you kind of leaned into through those hard times, man, that's a testimony of God working through other people to help you get through where you want to go in life, where you need to go. Sometimes, we're someone's assignment without even realizing it. But when you pay attention and listen to the assignments that God's given you, man, they become so obvious. And that woman probably knew that she was your assignment to save you, to help save you.
Absolutely, I agree. And I think that we all have that assignment. It's
Mhm.
just that we are so busy. We're so distracted. We're conditioned to just be positive all the time. We tell our kids, oh, don't cry. It's okay. You're okay. When really they're not. If they're crying, something is wrong. It's like, okay, so I see you're crying. It's okay to cry. Let's find out what the next step is. What can we do? How can we get through it, right? How
Yeah.
can we get through it together? You're not alone, but it definitely isn't okay. Being hurt is not okay. And one thing that you said really resonated with me, how you said that she saved me, because here's the thing. If it weren't for her mothering, that's what I call it, because
Mm.
I always say that mothering is not a biological or legal function. It is a feeling of nurturing. And so through her mothering, I kept hanging on to that vision. Like I hung on to the vision of the magazine to keep me going in my childhood. I kept going to her like there are people like her who get it, who
Mm.
are and so when we do that, when we are safe people, we actually save people. I always say it all the time, safe
Mm.
people save people.
Love that.
And yes, and one thing that I want to say is that a lot of people may say, well, if it weren't for that thing that happened to you, you wouldn't be so strong. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You've heard that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I don't believe that. I believe I believe that I made myself stronger
That's
because of
right.
my faith.
That's right.
Because I decided when that thing went up, I decided to listen to what I believe was God telling me, walk out,
Mm.
get out. And I had the resilience and the obedience, I call it, to get out of that car. I think that I made myself stronger. And I think that she, the woman at the gas station, made me stronger. Yeah, so we've all heard that what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. But I don't believe that. I believe that we make ourselves stronger. I believe that safe people makes us stronger. When I decided to walk out of that car and have the faith that I was going to survive this, when I walked out of the car and she mothered me with tenderly care, that is what made me stronger. And so if we want to make people stronger, we want to believe, we want to have faith, we want to be present. And what we do typically is that we credit the people who hurt, abuse, and perpetrate damage and violence. We attribute them with making us stronger. But it is not them that we got to thank. We got to thank our higher power. We got to thank ourselves, our younger versions of ourselves. We got to thank the people who were there for us that help us recover. And so when we shift that, we'll be able to see that it is our resilience and our power that is inside of us that can take us to the next level and that can help us survive any situation that we find ourselves through, any circumstance, condition, or any challenge.
Yeah, I mean, that's so powerful, realizing that we're not victims of our circumstances and conditions, that that doesn't control our destiny. We control our destiny, right? We're the drivers of the car. Well, God's the driver of the car that we're in, right? But realizing that, the past doesn't define you. Like I always say, I say thank you to my past. I say thank you to substance abuse for making me the man that I am today. Thank you to substance abuse for getting me closer to God and getting me into the relationship that I have today. Because without that past, I wouldn't be able to catapult into my future. But I don't have to stay stuck in the past. And it sounds like that was something that really helped you catapult also into the future. And you mentioned about always having the tools in place, or having the tools in place to continue to overcome, to continue to move forward. What are some of those tools that you continue to kind of go into the tool belt and grab to be able to overcome, and continue to build those resilience muscles?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. And I totally agree with you. I always say that your adversity is not your destiny. And
Mm.
and really that those younger versions of ourselves had tools to cope that kept us alive. And so that definitely is something that I resonate with you about. And I'm just so in awe of your journey and seeing that you have not only surpassed the odds, but thrived against all odds. And I'm inspired by you.
Thank you.
And
I'm inspired by you, girl.
yeah. And so one of the tools that I always share, because it's such an easy tool and one that I use every single day, is one that I developed many years ago after doing a lot of research and studying neuroscience and positive psychology, and also through my community of moms throughout the world, and knowing that this has evidence. So it's an evidence-based practice and based on research, is the fact that we must validate our pain every day. So I call this, are you ready for the name?
I'm ready. Let's hear it, girl. Come on.
I call it date your pain. Date
Date.
your pain.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
Yes.
yes. So every single day, what I do is that I get still, kind of like how I was in my coma, because during my coma, I was able to see that I never really stopped running and trying to achieve, trying to perform, trying to prove myself, trying to climb a ladder. And I never took the moment to rest and to be still and process my emotions. So there are 3 steps to date your pain, and it only takes 2 minutes, because neuroanatomy tells us that every emotion takes 90 seconds to actually come through our body. And so we suppress it, and that's why when it explodes, it's a lot. And so if we are able to move through our emotion, it only takes 90 seconds. So there's 90 seconds of feeling our emotion and 30 seconds of validating that emotion. So what we do in those 3 steps is first see, sense, and say. So 3 S's again. I'm a very, very S person, apparently. So see is first you recall in your mind vividly an emotion that a situation that's stressful or painful to you. So you're just going to recall it. You're going to see it in your mind. I like to close my eyes to fully be in that. And it could be something that you think is very traumatic or very trivial. So first you see, then you sense by scanning your body and seeing where those show up in your body. And usually It's, your shoulders maybe slouch, or maybe you feel a lump in your throat. This is where I feel the most, is my throat and my stomach. For some people, is they get shaky or sweaty. So you're able to identify where this negative feeling gets in your body. And let me just say real quickly, we call it negative, but it's just an emotion. So it's unpleasant and difficult, but it is positive in that it tells you what's off. When you get angry, you realize something is off with my value system.
Mm.
And that's why I'm angry. When you experience sadness, you know that something is really not what you expected. And so emotions are simply messengers. It's not what's wrong. What's wrong is underneath the emotion. So we close our eyes if we can. We don't have to, but I like to do that. We see what's the situation. We sense the emotion in our bodies. And lastly, we say, so we do 90 seconds of that. And the say is just 30 seconds of validation.
Wow.
Validation, if you say it out loud and in the third person,
Mm.
research shows us that it's more powerful because it's like it's coming from your observer self and not from the part of your body or your mind or your self that's hurt. So for example, if I close my eyes right now, I'm seeing something that someone said that hurt my feelings. That's what I see right now. I see them saying that to me. I'm sensing it actually kind of on my lower back. I
Mm.
feel tension in my lower back right now. And what I'm going to say out loud to me is, Elina, of course, I understand that it hurt your feelings. It reminds you of something that happened before. You're strong. You're powerful. That person loves you. That person doesn't know what happened to you. You know what happened to you, and you can take care of yourself. So that was me with my date with pain.
Mm.
And it's so simple to kind of resolve things. You could do it first thing in the morning. You could do it at night when, to resolve something that happened to you during the day. But the thing that happens when you date your pain is that your pain knows that you're going to give it space, because repression is what causes depression. Depression. It's like you're putting all of that pressure and you're keeping it inside of you, and it causes three things. I call it is dysfunction in our minds, disconnection in our spirit, and disease in our body.
Wow.
All of that happens because we don't allow ourselves to feel pain, and pain is a gift. If you don't feel pain, you're going to burn your entire body, because when we touch that stove or that handle or something, it's like, oh, this is hot.
Yeah.
Start to feel that as a gift for you to not mutilate yourself.
Mm.
The nerve endings of our body, and this is just physical pain, but it's the same with our emotional pain. It's telling us something's off, take care of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, dating your pain, and the three S's, man, because man, seeing, it's the same thing when you want something to come into fruition, you have to have that vision, you have to see it, you have to feel it, you have to believe it, right? And you say it out loud, right? I do it through prayer and meditation all the time, and now you're talking about removing pain that you're going through, doing it in the same concept. I love that. That's so powerful. That's awesome. And thank you for sharing that with the audience, for real, and sharing it with me, because I'm going to definitely take that and utilize that.
Yeah, I
Uh,
hope so.
you,
Don't marry the pain though. Just date it.
no, 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 no. I'm not trying to marry the pain. Definitely not. You mentioned something else also about when you're sensing it, and being aligned, if it's not aligned with your value system, right? So out of curiosity, when you, because you went through overcoming these challenges, you went through building this toolbox, and when I believe that when you're cracking through those limited beliefs in life, you start uncovering core values that you're aligned with that help you continue to move forward in life. Obviously, without a doubt, it's obvious, spirituality's one of your core values. It is mine also. But what are some other core values that you kind of lean into to help you move forward and continue to overcome challenges that come along in your life?
Wow, I'm glad you asked that. And I don't know, it's kind of unnerving to share this, but I will share it anyway. Because that's what's coming up. I mean, I could share a lot of them, but I think this is what needs to be said right now. So when I was in what I call heaven,
Mm.
I was, I had a lot of experiences, and they call it near death experience, but I call it afterlife experience because
Yes.
I was pronounced dead on arrival when I went to the hospital, and it took them a while to revive me and to take me out of cardiac arrest. And so one of the things that I experienced is that I was taken to the jail cell. The jail cell where he was being kept, and we're talking about 6 months after I went through the kidnapping and all of the humiliation and all of that. And one of the things that I knew is that even in my kind of limbo experience,
Mhm.
I didn't feel any kind of pain myself. I was able to see other people experiencing pain, but I only experienced love and peace and joy up there. And it was just so beautiful and so bright. And the people I encounter and the beings I encounter, they were all full of light. And so then I was taken to this jail cell, and it was as if that person that I call the monster, that's what I call them, the monster, that he and I were together, but he couldn't see me, obviously. And all of a sudden, I saw a life review of his life and my life and what he experienced and what I experienced as a child, and we had similar lives. And I
Mm.
still get chills in this.
Wow.
And in that state, I found myself thinking, because there was no voice, right? It was just more of an inner knowing, thinking, I forgive you and I love you.
Wow.
And I wanted to know, because when I woke up, people were thinking, "Oh, you were hallucinating, or you know, your brain." I had brain injuries, so maybe your
Mm.
brain's not working properly. Because I told them I saw God, I was in heaven, and I had this experience. So what I thought about is, do I really? Because I remember living that. Do I really forgive this person, and do I really love this person? And the answer was yes. The
Mm.
answer is that I believe that forgiving cleanses us. And
Yes.
actually, yes, and it's one of the portals to heaven.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and so because you said that spirituality is one of my values, when I studied the Bible, and I didn't grow up studying the Bible until my grandma introduced me to it. And this is something that whether you read the Bible or not, it's going to resonate with our audience, that you know, Jesus said, forgive them, they don't know what they do.
Right.
And then in his prayer, the Lord's Prayer, which, we actually prayed in an ashram in India when I was speaking to them. He said, let it be in heaven, on earth as it is in heaven.
Mm.
And what I notice is that if we want to live our own personal heaven on earth, forgiveness needs to be one of our core values and our core practices,
Yeah.
because it's not just a value, it is a practice. And the thing is, like, how can I love this person? Because he wasn't a monster. He was a human expressing the worst of their pain
Mm.
because they did not process it.
Yes.
If
Come
that
on,
person,
man.
yeah, if that person
Love
would
it.
have hated their pain, if that person would have had a woman at the gas station mothering him, loving him, and demonstrating to him his worth as a human, there is no way that he could have be so hurt as to
Mm.
hurt another person.
Yes.
So what I say is that when we date our pain, we transform our trauma and then we stop transmitting it.
Mm. Love it. Come on, man. Talk about it, girl. Keep preaching, girl. Love it. And man, forgiveness is such a powerful tool to have in the tool belt, and to have it as one of your core values, because when we forgive, I mean, I want the audience to really pay attention to this and what she's saying. You're not forgiving just, it's not just about the other person. Forgiving is about self and
Yeah.
cleansing the soul and being able to clean your side of the street. Because guess what? You got to let go of that in order to let go of the pain, in order to move forward. So I'm so glad you shared that, because I think it's so important for people to understand how important and powerful forgiveness is, and know that it's not just for the person that you're forgiving. It's also for self.
No, and actually, it's forgiving. It sounds like giving, but it's
Mm,
not. It's not a gift. What it is you're doing a trade.
mm.
Forgiving. You're giving this anger, this resentment. You're giving it away in exchange for peace,
Yes, yes.
for health in your body, for connection with your higher power. It's an exchange, it's a trade. So
Right.
when we hold on to all of those negative feelings or negative emotions, like negative ill will toward somebody else, we're
Mm.
actually making ourselves sick.
Yes.
Yeah.
And who wants to make themselves sick? Do people really want to do that, man? It's an exhausting thing if you keep making yourself sick.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And we're
Man.
not absolving anybody, but I often ask myself because it comes up, right? People hurt us and
Mm,
things happen that we don't like and that are disappointing to us. And I always try to ask myself, do I want to be judged only by the worst thing I ever did?
yeah.
And so just giving second chances and giving people a chance. And also that forgiveness is not the same as reconciliation or
Mm-mm.
relation.
No.
You can love a person and forgive them and not, be in a situation or put yourself in a situation where they're gonna hurt you again because
Mm.
they have not yet evolved. It's
Yes.
it's a different concept.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because that's an important point. You don't have to, stay in a situation that's going to harm you again just because you forgave someone. And that's very important to point out. So, Elina, tell everybody, who doesn't know, what it is you're doing now, and where they can find you, and what that transformation has done for your life.
Thank you so much. So, one of the things that I learned in my experience is that I really was called to be a storyteller and that I needed to not only share my experiences with the world, which I've been doing for over 20 years through my blog. It's called The Positive Mom, and it aims to really heal the world because when mothers transform their trauma, they stop transmitting it and it really heals generations. And so that's what I do is to help people. I call them impact centered leaders because I like to work with people that really are truly focused impacting the world. And whether they are leaders at home, leaders at work, or leaders in their community or the world, they want to share their experiences and turn them into a transformational story that's going to help others in some shape or form. And so I do that through my speaking coaching and my book coaching. And I have a community called Transformational Storytellers Community, where people learn how to turn that story into something that is magnetic and that they can monetize as well, because I believe that we can turn storytelling into our ministry. This is what I've done ever since my little ones were little, and I've been doing it since I was 7 years old, just formally for the past 20 something years. But I really love, through the books that I compile and the different projects that I do, to help people become stronger storytellers. Because when we tell stories, that's when we can connect with others. That's when we can feel the humanity, that we are not alone, that we're all the same, that we're all connected. And was a resounding message when I was in the afterlife, that we are all one. And that we can heal each other, we can heal the world. And storytelling is one of the most powerful tools that we can use to do that. So that's what I do every day of my life. I'm helping someone share their story, and it is an honor for me to be a witness to the transformation and the healing that happens not only for them but for their audiences.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Man, talk about giving it back and everything coming full circle, right? That's God's work. So there's a couple of questions that I ask all my guests. What is the word? And by the way, Ilana's information and everything's going to be in the show notes of where to find her. What does the word purpose mean for you?
The word purpose is something that is embedded in us. So a lot of people say, I need to find a purpose, or find out what my purpose is, or turn something into purpose. And the truth is that we were already born with a purpose. It is something innate, and it is something that we have to give to others. And that purpose is to be alive for the service of humanity. And if I think back to the moment when I was in a coma, I didn't even breathe on my own. I couldn't move. I couldn't talk, couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't breathe. And I had a purpose.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
And your purpose is just to be. As long as you are here, you are serving a purpose. And it doesn't mean that you have to be busy or doing something or being productive or performing or proving. It just means be who you are meant to be, and that's your only purpose. Everything else is activity related to that purpose.
And everything just falls into place when you're doing that, when you're being your true authentic self, the person that your creator created you to be. Man, I love that. And what does the word reforge mean to you?
I think, you said something about coming back, right? And I really love that. I think that that's what it means to me. It means to re-engineer the things that happened, and to extract the good parts and to discard the parts that don't serve us anymore. And that is in our thoughts, that is in our habits, that is in everything that we do every day, but also to think about the kind of the way that we see the world and the mindset that we have, and to always question it.
Yes.
Like when we question something, then that's the only way that we can grow, that we can accelerate, that we can move forward, that we can gain momentum, is when we live in a question and not in a statement.
I love that. I love that, man. It's so important to realize that you have to question and challenge yourself to move forward. If you don't, there's no growth. And one last thing for the listeners out there, there might be somebody out there who's trying to create their comeback, trying to reforge their life. What's one thing that you could tell someone that's looking to reforge their life and how they could do it?
Well, I think it's really beautiful because we already talked about second chances, right?
Yeah.
And so when we want to reforge our life, it's not only about changing, it's not about changing our identity or who we are, but just to reinforce who we are by changing the activities that don't serve us. And so reevaluating, who am I at my core? And I always like to come back to my 5-year-old self and see, what did I love to do? What were the things that ignited me? What lights me up? And I follow my light. So my advice is find out what lights you up and then follow your light. And then you're going to not only reforge your life, but every aspect of it, because you're going to feel re-energized. You're going to gain that momentum we talked about in your career, but your relationships are going to flourish when you are living closer to that identity that you were born to have. And it's not about changing or learning. It's more about going back to your essence and unlearning the things that you don't need in this life.
Learning and unlearning is so powerful, so real. And finding that light and the relationships that come into your life. And I believe when you find that light, you do start to bring more positive relationships that will help you grow. And the most powerful one, finding that light, is that relationship with that higher source, whether you call it God, the universe, infinite intelligence, because when you find that light, he's the one shining that light on you, and that relationship continues to grow stronger.
Absolutely.
Elaina, thank you so much for this. This was awesome. I knew that, when we first met, that your energy was an energy that I wanted to be around and kind of do something together. Every time that we get together to do something, my gratitude goes through the roof more and more. So I'm so grateful to have you on today, and thank you for coming on.
I'm so grateful for you, the work you do in the world, and that you're in my life. Thank you so much, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. And to all the listeners out there, thank y'all for listening, for viewing it. And don't forget to share and like, because there's someone out there that might need to hear this message, that might need to create their comeback. And listening to episodes like this is a way for them to do it. So stay productive, stay profitable, and stay blessed. Thank you.
You've been listening to Reforge Your Life with your host, Joe Rivera. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more about Joe Rivera and how he can help you or your organization reforge your life and regain your place at the top, head on over to withjoerivera.com and follow Joe on all social platforms. The Reforge Your Life podcast was produced by Thrive Loud Productions. Thanks for listening.